Welcome back to Get Well with Me Live. I am your hypnotist, Adrienne Hart, and today I have visiting for a casual Friday hangout my hypnotist, Dustin Fisher. Welcome, Dustin.
Hi, Jen. How you doing?
I'm great today. In the past, we've had you visit the show before, and we talked about gambling, and that was a fascinating topic. So everyone, go back and check out that kind of chat that we had. Also, today we're switching topics. We're talking about anxiety, and anxiety is something that touches every human, and it's something that can be relieved or helped with the power of the mind. And in hypnosis, that's what we do. We work with the power of the mind. In my opinion, our most underutilized resource. So, Dustin, I want to kind of turn it over to you and ask before we even talk about anxiety, unless you want to talk about it in the context of anxiety, your either definition or philosophy of hypnosis. It's something that on this channel, I present kind of a different definition or philosophy of hypnosis almost every time that we get together. And I do that to expand our mind, to expand our awareness around what hypnosis is, what it can be. So go ahead and shoot
Sure.
your definition and or philosophy of hypnosis.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, hypnosis itself, there's a lot of different definitions. As you know, you could ask 100 different hypnotists and you'll probably get 100 different answers. And so, for me, what is hypnosis? Hypnosis is what we would consider perhaps a hyper suggestible state. Well, what is that? That basically means you're very receptive. If you're very receptive, you're very suggestible. What is receptivity? Receptivity is openness. So, the more open minded a person is, the more receptive they become, the more suggestible they are. If you're closed minded to something, you're not very receptive, you're not very suggestible. So the first ingredient would be openness, and the second ingredient would be attention or focus. So you can
Mm.
have a lot of attention and openness towards something, and the more attention and focus you have, and openness you have, the more you receive information, the more suggestible you become. So that could be something external or it could be internal. So we have self hypnosis and we have hetero hypnosis. When you come in
Mhm.
for a hypnotherapy session, it's the hypnotist kind of inducing hypnosis that would be considered hetero hypnosis. You can be hypnotized by the news, you can be hypnotized by people's judgment about you, by the advertisements you see at the store, or you could be hypnotized from a self perspective, focusing on your own limiting beliefs or your own learned experiences, identities, emotions, value discrepancies, things like that. And so you can be doing self hypnosis, you can be doing hetero hypnosis. Hypnosis is just a state of open focus, openness and focus. Another good way to explain hypnosis would be effective communication or um, being able to change your mind about something. Those are very
Mhm.
easy definitions. So my current definition of it would simply be a open focus state where you're naturally suggestible and allowing information to come in, whether it's outside of you or inside of you.
Thank you for unpacking that for us. And it's so easy to see why I'm constantly changing and playing around with these ideas of what hypnosis is because it's everywhere, it's all the time. And
Right.
when you especially when you're defining it as open and suggestible, it makes me think about just watching a movie, right? Like we're open to the experience and we're highly suggestible. That's why we maybe like flinch when something happens or
Right.
even engage our emotions and cry. It's like we are open and suggestible. So,
Yeah, that's
um,
actually one of my favorite examples is the movies and television, right? Logically it's fake, it's green screen, CGI, actor script, special effects. You know it's fake going into the movie,
mhm,
but you allow yourself to suspend reality to become suggestible to the film. And when you're in the movie, you're not logically laughing. It's something funny that happens, even though you logically know it's fake. You're not like,
mhm.
ha ha ha, that's funny. Like
Yeah.
actually laugh, right? Or at the end of the movie, if you're anything like me, I'm a big superhero buff. I like Marvel movies. At the end of the superhero movie, I might want to be a superhero. I want to eat
Hmm.
healthier, go to the gym. So if you've ever had that feeling, whether it's reading a book or watching a movie, and you want to kind of be the character in a way, that's hypnosis.
I like the idea of even if it is something like watching a movie, but going into it with that intention that there's something that you can take from it that could, if you're open and suggestible to it, right, allow it to frame your next steps or
Change your mind.
have yeah, have empowering beliefs about yourself. We often will see ourselves inside of the character or see the character inside of us, however we want to look at that. So that's kind of fun to think about. Okay, as far as anxiety goes, do you have um, well, I know that you have had thousands of clients. So, what would you say are some examples of issues or presenting issues that clients have come to you with in the context of anxiety? Because I know that that can be on a
Yeah,
spectrum of all different kinds of things. So, just some brief examples.
sure. I mean, yeah, there's infinite amount of variables with anxiety. So, I mean, you can have driving anxiety, there's relationship anxiety, not finding relationship anxiety. You could have, you know, any kind of fear would produce an anxiety as well, pretty much. They go hand in hand. So, you could have a fear of flying, which you're going to have anxiety around maybe the dying if you feel like
Hmm.
you might crash or so in terms of anxiety, I mean there's anxiety around social judgment, right? People judging you. There's anxiety around stage fright, getting up on stage, anxiety around imposter syndrome, trying to go after something and believing you're not good enough or, not worthy or something like that. So anxiety itself just sort of surrounds almost any other issue that you have doubt of.
Hmm.
Right. So anxiety itself is really just doubt of a future. Anytime you have doubt
Sure.
of a future, you have anxiety.
Right. And would you say the mechanism with anxiety is that there's a part of our mind that is trying to protect us from this unknown?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's always protection, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this kind of goes into the nervous system regulation work, but any kind of emotion can link into your nervous system. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you have fear and anxiety. You have anger, frustration, agitation, irritation, sadness, guilt, shame, grief, boredom. All of these kind of lead into fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or shutdown responses in our nervous system. So if you're super anxious and there's nothing to fight, your nervous system's going to make you run. If there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing to fight or run from, it might make you freeze. If there's nothing to freeze, or if that doesn't actually protect you, it might shut you down. Right. And so, procrastination, there's a lot of anxiety if we're going to do the thing that you logically should do, but you feel this anxiety, and so you don't do it because you're anxious about it, right? And so that can be a freeze response because
Mm-hmm.
you have the energy to do it. It's not that you don't have energy; you're not shut down in your nervous system, but you can't do it because of some fear of doubt of the future. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Okay. Would you have any um, personal examples that you'd be willing to share about
sure,
anxiety in your own life?
yeah, for sure. So I'll give you one that happened just recently.
Okay.
Over Christmas break, I was at my family's house and I'm sitting there and, I'm drinking a little bit. There's a little bit of alcohol involved. And all of a sudden, anybody who has had panic attacks or anxiety before, they'll know that there's a very big difference between tipsy and panic and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
It feels kind of similar at first, but then you might start noticing it climb up, right? So that was what was happening. I was sitting down, I had my drink, and people were just doing Christmas stuff, right? And all of a sudden, I start to feel my heart go. I start to feel that gut wrenching coming up. Um, Started to feel my adrenaline kind of spike, my head kind of like, whoa, what's going on? Kind of be alert. And then I was like, okay, well, this is anxiety. I haven't had anxiety in like over a year, so I'm not sure what's going on right now. And you know, part of part of the work with anxiety is to learn to go with it as opposed to resist it. It's the fighting against your own anxiety and fear that keeps them there. And so, I teach this stuff and I do this stuff. So I'm like, all right, let me just do my own stuff on it. I haven't had to do it in a while, but let's just do it. And so I stand up, first thing I need to do is I need to change my state. I already know that. I need to go with it and change my state. So I'm like, all right, let me stand up. Let me go to the kitchen, get a glass of water, something cold in my hands, right? And I'm sitting there And I'm feeling it, and I'm like, okay, let me just feel it. No, no rejecting, no resisting, no judging. Just kind of let me feel the anxiety, and it's creeping up, and it gets worse before it gets better, usually, right? Um, and a analogy I like to use here is if you're stranded in the ocean and you're trying to cross the ocean, right? You're trying to swim across the ocean. Eventually, the waves will overtake you. And so instead of trying to resist the waves of the ocean, you need to allow the waves to take you back to shore. Because when you get back to shore, that's where you have all the resources and all the solutions to your problem. And so you could, get a boat, you can barter passageway across, get a canoe, something. You can actually cross the waves, right? So you have solutions and resources. And the idea is, I'm sitting there, I have the cold water, I'm drinking. I know that I need to kind of change my state, go with the flow, let the anxiety protect me, because that's all it's really trying to do is protect me from whatever is happening, even though I don't know logically what that is yet. And eventually, after about 5 minutes or so, it starts to really calm down. Got to about maybe an 8 out of 10. If 10 is a panic attack, it was pretty high. And I'm just letting it grow. I'm letting it, not fighting it, just letting it process. And eventually it starts to go down. It gets down to like a 2 or 3. And I go back over to the couch. I'm drinking water. And of course, nobody notices, right? Everybody's doing their own thing. You can stay calm on the outside, but inside, internally, you're like, oh, what's going on right now? And so I go back over to the couch and I'm drinking my water. And because my emotional state and my anxiety is now a 2 out of 10, my nervous system isn't in fight flight mode where I had to get off the couch and go do
Hmm.
something. I'm back in a regulated state, and now resources and solutions come. So I'm like, okay, immediately I already knew what was going on. What it was I hadn't eaten in 14 hours and I've been drinking. So my blood
Hmm.
sugar dropped. And my solution was, oh, I haven't eaten in 14 hours. My blood sugar dropped. I've been drinking. So it spiked really quickly and then it dropped fast because there's nothing to prevent it. And so I went to the kitchen again, grabbed myself a couple bean burritos. I ate them and then I had no more anxiety for the rest of the night. And that's because I got back to shore, right? I changed
Right.
my state. I allowed the process to happen. I knew it was protecting me from something. I didn't know what. Doesn't matter. I just know
Hmm.
to go with the protection, not try to fight it, not resist it. Got back to a regulated state. It took several minutes. It's not super quick all the time, especially when it's in the moment, right? But you can get back into that regulated state, and then immediately you'll find solutions and resources. And that's what happens. I ate, everything just calmed down. I haven't had anxiety since. So,
I think that's so interesting that you were experiencing something that eventually you determined was physical, but it's the sensation in your body that was maybe causing you to think, like, what if it's something worse?
right.
But
Yeah.
rather than follow that train of thought, you said, let me change my state, let me use my tools, like your canoe, so to speak, or your life raft, so you can get
Right.
back to shore. It can be really scary,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
when you don't know why. And typically with anxiety, that's the dark magic of it is that we don't know why.
I don't know why.
I once had a panic attack that was so severe that I kind of went into that I'm dying kind of a mode. And I'm like, okay, so do I drive myself to the hospital? Do I call 911? And of course, I'm resisting it the whole time. I'm
Right.
totally bought into the idea that um, that my body is in physical danger, and it does feel like physical
Oh,
danger.
yeah. Right.
So I actually got in the car, started driving towards the hospital, kind of freaked out. The what if I don't make it? And I drove back home, and now I can kind of laugh at myself and see like this is so silly, right? So I get out my pulse ox. I check my pulse. I make sure, okay, so I have oxygen. Like, okay, maybe I'm not dying. My heart's beating. It's going kind of fast though, right? And I'm just like freaking myself out. Um, and and I wasn't using all my tools and I wasn't using all my resources and I was totally scared. And I was able to have someone I could call and someone that would be calm. So I called my sister and I was like, just stay on the phone with me. And, like if the phone goes dead, call 911. And I just thought, like, let me just be on the phone with someone so I'm not totally alone. And that really reassured me. And I know that's kind of an extreme example, but most people at some point in their
Honestly,
life
yeah,
are
that
going to
happens.
have a panic attack where they think that they're dying. And I don't know. And maybe it's not important to know what was the trigger of that. Yeah, I was right in the middle of a Zoom call, which was super embarrassing. Um, I'm looking at my face and in the video, like, am I dying right now? What's
I know.
happening? What if these people watch me die? And it's just amazing how our own ruminations can spiral out of control and make it
Self
worse.
hypnosis, right?
Yeah, and I love that I'm gonna change my state. I'm gonna run some cold water under my hands. I'm gonna get it, something to physically change your state can be helpful.
Right.
How about let's see,
Well,
anxiety as far, well, yeah, if you have a thought
before
on
even, yeah, before we
that.
go into anything else, that's it's not uncommon, right? It feels like you're dying. That's what it feels like. And that's why
Mhm.
you focus so much on the symptoms. You focus on the heart palpitation, you
Yeah,
focus on the sweating, you focus on your hands, you focus on your dizziness, right? And that was what was happening to me too. And I think once, as it creeps up higher and higher and higher, that's what gets more and more prominent is you're really afraid something bad is going to happen, right? You don't know
hmm,
what it is, but it doesn't feel like anything good. And so,
right.
it still go with it though, right? It's like,
Hmm.
I think it's interesting because a lot of people, they think that not resisting the anxiety sounds like calm down, relax. It's going to be okay. Everything will be fine. And that's actually the exact opposite of what you want. It's
Right.
more like bring it, bring it.
Yeah.
Let's just see what you got. Let's see what
Hmm.
happens. It's not a problem. No worries. And that's more the mindset because now you're actually going with it. Calm down, calm down, calm down is you literally resisting your own protection system. Your nervous system doesn't care how you think or how you feel. All it cares about is protection, survival, safety. And you telling yourself to calm down or someone else telling you to calm down is only going to exacerbate the issue because your protection system is activated. It's like, no, we're not calming down, we're protecting. And
Right.
it's stronger than every part of us, our nervous system. So it doesn't matter what we think or feel in that moment. And
Yeah.
so it's like, um, even when I was standing there, those 5, 6 minutes, I could see just dizziness, right? Like I felt like I wanted to fall forward. I felt like I wanted to fall on my face. I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was going to die. And it's the same thing. You still go with it. It's like, okay, if I'm dead, I'm going to die. Let's do it. This
Right.
is this is it. I know. It's a weird concept, but it's like actually go with it. And what you'll find is it'll calm down because nothing actually is going on. There's no
Hmm.
actual reason for it. And so once the nervous system realizes that there is no reason for it to protect you, it'll calm down. And so
Hmm.
it's just going with it until that happens. And it can take
Yeah.
5 minutes, it can take 10 minutes, and it sucks, but yeah.
So it's the resistance that
Oh
can
yeah.
push it forward and perpetuate it. If we
Oh
can notice the sensations in our body, accept it, and go about changing that state, that's, I think, like base level instructions.
exactly.
Some
Yeah, exactly.
also sometimes kind of harnessing your breathing. I know for me, I'm a
Yeah,
person that gets anxiety from breathing. That's why a lot of clients are like, "Hey, can we do more breath work?" And I'm like, probably we'll bring in a breath work specialist because for some reason when I engage my conscious mind and breathing, that induces anxiety for me. It's like thinking about the one thing that maybe I don't have to think about, right? Like thinking about an unconscious process consciously kind of freaks me out, but that's the way that I'm built. I know that in the past you have done a session for my group Wellness Wednesday, and you used an example that I thought was so helpful because it normalized anxiety, and especially like anxiety, it happens in children, it happens in adults. Like no one is immune to the fact that we have unconscious worry about the future. And I'm going to say that that's my definition of anxiety, like unconscious worry about the future. Because worry is like when you consciously know what you're worried about. Anxiety is when your nervous system is worrying, and you don't even know why. So it makes it that much more confusing. But you said something, you used this example about maybe like an animal and how they shake off trauma. Would you want to revisit that example? I thought that was helpful.
Sure. Yeah, I think the example I used was like with dogs, right? If you ever see two dogs fighting, um, at the end of that exchange, they tend to shake off excess adrenaline and excess energy. They'll shake their legs, they'll shake their whole body to try and essentially regulate themselves. Well, we don't really have that. What we have is anxiety. Anxiety kind of becomes the almost in a way a healing mechanism, right? It's like we don't like the feeling of it, and so we logically resist and reject and judge and suppress and avoid it. Um, but the truth is, it's kind of like a fever. It's helping us, it's protecting us. Anxiety is always a defense mechanism, it's always a protection mechanism to some degree. um, and so what happens is, instead of instead of resisting it, we have to go with it because it is actually healing. It's actually healing us. It's protecting us. It's, at the base of everything, it's essentially the nervous system: fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or shut down, the immune system, respiratory system, digestive system, the way you breathe, your blood pressure, your body temperature. All of this is regulated by your nervous system. And it's all coming back to survival, protection, and safety. And so if your if your anxiety is linked into that nervous system and it's all based in protection, then you resisting your own protection is why it stays. That's part of it. And the other part of it to look at is it's almost like it's our shake mechanism that we don't have that because we're not dogs. We don't have that shake mechanism. They just do it automatically. For us, it's like all this energy is being built up in our nervous system, right? What we think these other people are thinking about us, social environments, our own learned experiences or problems that we're thinking, the doubt of the future, whatever it is that's creating this anxiety for us. It's getting all this dissonant energy in our nervous system. And that anxiety is almost a way to offload it. Because if we
Mhm.
don't, we're going to shut down, right? Fight, flight are actually um, higher stages or the first stages of our defense system. Freeze, fawn, and shut down would be the second lines of defense, right? So you have the first
Mm.
line of defense, which is fight, flight. And then after that, if there's nothing to fight or flee from, you go into freeze and then you go into shutdown, right? And then fawn is kind of a hybrid approach. It's sort of a mix between shutdown and flight is actually what fawn kind of is. But nonetheless, what you're looking at is your protection system going in different layers of protection, right? And so if you have anxiety, you have fight, flight, or you have freeze, and eventually it can go into shutdown. And shutdown is almost the last line of defense. It doesn't want to go into shutdown. And so instead of seeing anxiety as a hurtful, harmful, horrible thing, it's actually good. You want that more than you want shutdown. If you have no energy left in your body and your nervous system to protect you and it's just completely shut down, that's where severe depression comes from and all kinds of stuff like that. So it can turn into worse things. And so instead of viewing it as a problem, view it as actually it's helpful. It's protective.
Mm.
It's a first line of defense. Instead of going from one to two or three lines of defenses, you're at the first stage. That's a good thing. That means that after that anxiety processes, after you get out of that anxiety, your system comes back into normal so much faster. You come back into regulation so much faster. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think this is an important conversation because when a person experiences anxiety, either on a regular basis or for the very first time, especially panic attack mode, they tend to think there's something wrong with them,
All
right?
right.
Like that maybe and of course this is not a medical show and Dustin and I are not doctors, and when we are talking about anxiety, we're talking about the experience of anxious feelings, not about a diagnosis of general anxiety disorder or any other kind of diagnosis. Um so but normalizing that this is something that this is your body and your mind, or as you're saying, your nervous system,
Mind, body, yeah.
yeah, as in an attempt to protect you. Um, do you want to share maybe an anonymous client kind of a testimonial, someone who was experiencing anxiety either so frequently or so intensely that it was becoming a hindrance to their everyday life, and maybe what kind of tools or techniques you were able to use to help them?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I work with this a lot. I could go over one. There was a client who anxious about anything that moved. So if it
Oh.
moved in front of them, right? Like if it's so if they were in a car and it moves, anxiety. If they are on a train and it moves, anxiety. If they just see cars moving fast, anxiety. If they are running too fast, anxiety, right? So movement became anxious to them. They didn't like the movement. And the reason, or part of the reason, was control. They didn't have any control of anything outside of them. There was nothing they could do about things moving fast. And they didn't know what those things could do out the future, right? And even if it's just a couple seconds in the future, it's still the future. And so any doubt of the future for any reason is going to produce some form of anxiety, even low levels. But the idea is, I have no control of anything going on around me. And now I have no control over myself because of this anxiety. And I hate this anxiety. I don't want to feel it. And so I'm going to, force myself to change. I'm going to force myself to go into these situations, which can be helpful, but forcing yourself to do something against your protection system is not good. That's what kind of keeps it going. So anyway, this client, they're sort of way to combat it, which is what most people do, is to distract or to avoid the situation and but now they're staying home all the time and they're becoming more agoraphobic and they don't want to go outside because every time they go outside they have panic attacks. And so it can lead into worse things if you don't allow yourself to get out of this and process it properly. And so, long story short, a lot of it was kind of what we just talked about right now, which was going with it, right? Teaching that client how to feel it and process it properly. So I'd help them bring it up in session. I'd talk about it, and we would have a conversation about it, and help him really just process what's actually going on, how he's feeling, to know how he doesn't have to avoid it. It's just a part of his protection system. There's different ways to do that. It'd be hard to explain the process, I guess. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea is, overall, he no longer needed to have to control everything, right? At the kind of end of it, where he had gotten to, he could go into the trains, he could drive cars, he could be in the passenger seat, he could go over bridges, he could do all the things that he wanted to do at the end, because he was understanding in himself at the nervous system level that this is just protection. And a lot of it came down to the control. So, if you grow up in an environment where everything is controlled, and then in this person's case, they went into the military after everything's controlled, and then now you're free to do whatever you want, the subconscious mind wants to hold on to that control because it finally has it after an entire lifetime of not really having a lot of control. So there's a reason for holding on to control. And now something happens, you have a panic attack, and you realize you don't have any control of anything around you. And so there's this desire to have control back, right? And so that's kind of where the hiccups seem to be. And the truth about control is it's an illusion. Right? It's an illusion. You don't have control of other people. You don't have control of the weather. You don't have control of even really your own health in a lot of ways, right? Like you could look at Bruce Lee. He's perfect physical condition. He worked out all the time, and yet he got a brain aneurysm, right?
Mm-hmm.
Went into a coma and he died, right? So we can control what we can control, and then everything outside of that we have to just move on from and let go, because if we're constantly needing control, we have less of it. If you're no longer needing control, you actually have more control because you can be flexible and adaptable, and you can maneuver in any situation because you don't need the control in that situation, so you actually have more of it. And so it's just concepts like this, right? When you're in hypnosis and you're more open to these suggestions, these kind of frames of mind and these kinds of ways of thinking, it goes in. And so now when he's, looking around and everything's moving, he's already processed the anxiety around not having control. He no longer needs control. And so the whole control aspect just faded. It wasn't even an issue. So now if I don't need control and I don't feel anxious about not having it, I can just see all these things moving. It's no difference. It's not a problem. And so
Mhm.
that was kind of how he came down. And yeah, it takes some sessions, but essentially we
I
got to,
was just going to ask approximately how many sessions until he was able
yeah.
to function outside of his home more comfortably.
Well, outside of the home, it only took about 2 sessions. But to get on the train and to start driving again, that was about 4 sessions. And for him to really feel more, just set up in his nervous system to where he didn't even have to wonder if it was going to happen, to where he had like this confidence about it not happening instead of a doubt of it happening. That was about 6 to 8 sessions, I'd say. But
Hmm.
within about 2 sessions, he was already out of the house. He was, you know, uh, walking around more. He didn't really have much of an issue of cars going by. It
Hmm.
was more just being in the car, especially if he wasn't in control of the steering wheel, like the passenger. He
Yes.
didn't like that one as much. Um, that one took, about 4 sessions to kind of be comfortable in a car, passenger or driver, seeing cars, going on trains. And then after that, I would say that maybe 6, 8 sessions in is when he started to really get into, okay, I got this, a more
Hmm.
confident feeling.
That's so interesting because I'm thinking about um, that whole idea of driving anxiety or just being in a vehicle. And oftentimes, um, we feel like, okay, if I was the one driving, that would relieve my anxiety. And yes, you do have more of a sense of control that way, but as you previously pointed out, I mean, it's still an illusion of control. You
It
can be a
is.
perfect driver and still anything can happen. I hope we're not adding to the anxiety of people that have driving anxiety. I had a client for driving anxiety and she wasn't afraid to drive. She was afraid of getting pulled over. And it was just this constant alert looking for what she called the popo. And she just was like looking for those lights, looking for those undercover looking cars. And interestingly enough, she wasn't doing anything illegal, but she just had this thing about getting in trouble or being in trouble or getting a ticket. And to her, that was the scariest outcome. Um, and so we worked through that. But it's just interesting that many root causes of anxiety are linked to control. And it is healing just to have an awareness that that control is or lack of control can be the cause, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. It's fun to chew on that thought and see even where that applies in our own life.
Yeah, well, and it's not bad to have control or to prepare and plan your future and all these things. It's just there's a point of what you can control and what you can't, and everything you can't, you just have to let go of
Hmm.
because it's just gonna you if you're trying to control the uncontrollable or the unknown, good luck,
Hmm.
right? Like you're just creating anxiety, and this is how we create suffering for ourselves. Like in
Hmm.
the hypnotherapist world, we do it to ourselves. We create our own suffering. We create our own anxiety based off how we think, the way we think, how we feel in our nervous system are all linked together. And so, if I have this perspective that some catastrophe is going to happen and I feel a 10 out of 10 of fear of that, my nervous system has to protect me. There's no other
Hmm.
option. Right. And so, we know from a neuroscience standpoint that our brain, our nervous system can't tell the difference between a memory, reality, and imagination or future or fantasy, or whatever you want to say on that. And the reason why is because, when we look through our eyes, it's all vision, our vision, we all just see images. It's all just an image. Our eyes bring in images. Our brain recognizes it as images. How we feel about what's happening and whatnot goes into our nervous system. And if you think of the past, you have an image. You think of the future, there's an image, whether you're remembering something bad that happened to you or you're catastrophizing something in the future, it's all just images. So to the brain, it's all happening right now. And the nervous
Right.
system is linked to your brain. So, 90% of your nervous system is literally in your body. You
Yes.
Why your body moves first, right? That's why you have those, you have an emotion, which is an intellectual thought of fear and anxiety and sadness and all these things, but you feel it in your body. And so
Hmm.
it's all linked to your nervous system. And as you think this catastrophized future or this horrible thing that happened in the past, and you feel a certain thing about it, if it's severely negative enough, it's going to produce a fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or shutdown response. It has to,
Hmm.
because it's all happening right now to the nervous system and to the brain. So,
Yes. That's so interesting and true that inside our mind there is always now. And I don't mean that in any kind of a exotic way. It's just our mind is always processing whatever the pictures, feelings, all of those things, and it's processing them now as if it's happening. So, like when we think about the potential of something scary or dreadful, it's not unusual for your heart to begin to pound or for your muscles to begin to tense because it is truly experiencing that. And one of the most amazing things about hypnosis is that even though that can be the problem, that also can be the solution. And as you and I often talk about, and as my philosophy is, when the problem is in the mind, so is the solution. And as you sometimes say, the problem sometimes is the solution, right? Like when we flip that coin over, reverse engineer that feeling or that experience. So, and maybe one of the many reasons that I love hypnosis as a healing modality is because it doesn't give us mind control, but it does give us influence over that internal reality that we're experiencing. We can influence it by using those tools or by thinking particular thoughts or by changing our physical state and like on and on and on. Um, as a matter of fact, that brings to mind just this morning, I took my niece to school and she won the spelling bee for her class. So she's going on to be in like the all school spelling bee. And up until now, we've been practicing her words and she's been so excited about it. And the word nervous or stressed or anxious has not hit the radar at all. She's been just really positive. She's like, I'm going to Washington, D.C. And so I'm just like riding that wave with her. But today, when I picked her up for school, she said, Ann Age. They call me Ann Age. She's like, I'm really, 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 really. And she must have said really 20 times. And I was hoping she was going to say excited, but she finally said nervous about the spelling bee. And so I tried to point out to her the sensation that she feels in her body when she's really, really, really nervous. You know, her heart pounding, her, breathing becoming exaggerated, even that tension that she's feeling in her body. I said, do you notice how that's just the same as being excited? And I don't know that she bought it right away, but I definitely gave her something to chew on throughout the day. That tension, that excitement, that heart rate, right? That can be a very similar physical sensation. We might be thinking about it differently, but it could be producing an almost identical sensation in the body. So,
yeah, I mean, the energy is essentially the same. It's just, is it doubtful or is it positive? Right.
right.
If
Yep.
you have like, I like to use this example. If I were to say, Adrienne, uh, by next Friday, you're getting wired into your account $1 million. It's already been taxed. There's nothing you owe on it.
I
It's
receive it.
hitting in your account, and it's yours. No one can take it away from you. The IRS already okayed it. Everything. Do you have anxiety about that?
No,
No.
none.
If I told you now that you get that $1 million into your account, but you don't get to wake up the next day, you have anxiety now?
Yep,
Yeah, because now there's a
that's a
problem.
reframe, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And
that money
so,
doesn't mean so much anymore, right?
right. And so the idea is like, if it's positive about the future, there's no anxiety there. It's
Right.
always some sort of doubt. And I say doubt because you know, it's not just a fear. It's not like, because you can know that you're not really afraid of something and still doubt it and still have anxiety. It's like maybe you're not afraid of messing up, but you are doubtful of your skill set in that moment because you didn't do enough, but you're not really afraid that you're going to mess up. It's just that you're doubting that you're going to do good, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's not always a fear, it's just a doubt. If there's a
Mm-hmm.
doubt of the future, you're going to have anxiety. And if you have positive feelings about the future, then you're going to have anxiety. So in her case, it's like this spelling bee, it's getting closer. Maybe there's a little bit of doubt of if she's going to perform well or if she's going to do something wrong or whatever. And so there's this doubt, and now nervousness and anxiety are starting to creep in. And yeah.
Hmm. And isn't it interesting the closer we get to
Oh
an
yeah.
event, that excitement can turn into nervousness? I feel that way even with travel. When you first book a vacation, it's all excitement and it's a countdown. And then the week before, it's like, what
Sure.
if I die? Or I mean, I don't want to project
What if something happens?
my own. Yeah, what if something happens? We'll go with that. All right, let's shift gears to let's jump into how does somebody work with you and what do you charge? I know that a lot of hypnotists they'll have different packages, they'll have different programs, they'll have different ways to enter your world. For one, I know that when it comes to gambling, you give away a ton of free content on your channel. You have a book that I've read the comments myself. Some people have seen relief just from reading the book and watching your content. But when it comes to anxiety or some other type of an issue, they want to work with you, or they do want you to help them resolve their gambling addiction. How do they enter your world and what's it going to cost?
Sure. Well, I mean, they enter the world by just setting up a free consultation, right? We need to kind of chat about what actually it is that they want, and what the problem is, and where they're at, where their mindset is at, and all of that. And so it's just a free consultation to enter the world, I guess. And on top of that, I'm very simple. I don't do the whole giant package 3-tier system, all this convoluted stuff. I feel like that overcomplicates things. I like to start at 4 sessions, and it's usually just $1,000. That's what I do. 4 sessions, $1,000, and if you need more, you need more. Most people
Mhm.
with a single problem, 4 sessions is plenty. And so,
Mhm.
a lot of
I
people.
love that. Like the point to entry, it's clear and it's affordable. I mean, essentially when you think about how your life changes. Like I know we often talk about what if it works, right? Like what if I am relieved of anxiety? What if I have the tools to do those things in my life that I'm scared to do? What if I do resolve my gambling addiction? Uh, where does that leave me? And a lot of times that can be the biggest hindrance
Can be.
to starting a treatment or a healing process is because we don't know who we are sometimes without that layer of our identity. So, to that person who is watching or listening to this right now, and they are at the point where staying the same is more painful than the fear of making a change, $1,000 is an
Not
easy,
bad. Yeah,
it
I mean,
is an easy entry point. So I love that you make it so affordable and
yeah.
smooth to
Well, I
work
mean,
with
I
you.
want the work is to help people anyway, right? It doesn't have to be $5,000, or I've seen programs that go really really high, and that's fine. Everybody can charge what they want to charge, but I want to make it as affordable as I can, and very easy. I'd
Hmm.
rather have the process be easy. 4 sessions is more than enough for any single issue, really, and
Hmm.
I think it's fine. So that's what
Yeah,
I just,
that's
and it
beautiful.
doesn't matter what the problem is, like anxiety or gambling, or like I just keep it the same. It's just
Hmm.
simple, keep it the same, whatever it is.
Yes, I thank you for making your services accessible to everyone. And also, guys, don't be sleeping on the free resources because, especially when it comes to gambling, Dustin's channel is amazing. His book is amazing. And he's just a teacher by heart. He teaches me a lot of things. So I
Thank you.
encourage you to find his content. I'm going to link it up in the show description. And also, I guess I'll tag or not tag it. What do you call it? Pin it to the comments. So get over there and like his channel. Encourage him in that way, encourage me in that way. Thank you I see Sophia's leaving us live stream comments. Thank you, Sophia. And thank you to everyone who's watching.
Thank you.
And Dustin, I will see you on the next one.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, take care.
All right,
Bye.
take care.